Hey everybody, I'm meteorologist Gavin Sandell. Yesterday we took a look at high pressure systems. Today, let's look at the driver of almost all impactful weather on Earth, low pressure. We'll do a similar process to what we did yesterday and talk about how wind impacts it and what we can see from the surface and what we could see aloft as well. So like yesterday, we have high pressure over to the right and low pressure over to the left. Yesterday we discovered that air flows out of high pressure, it diverges, and we also discovered that it converges at low pressure. And what that means, like I mentioned yesterday, if it converges at low pressure, all that air is coming to a point. It needs to get out somewhere, it needs to flow out, and what it does, it flows up from the surface, and it goes up all the way aloft into the sky. So when you have converging air at the surface, you have diverging air at portions aloft. And what that means is you have air that is rising, and this is completely the opposite to what we had yesterday, air that was going down in a high pressure system. And when you have air that's rising, that means big things for a low pressure system. Let's detail these things. So what does air rising mean for weather? As it ascends, it expands and cools down, opposite to what we discussed yesterday. When you have cool air, you get cooler to the dew point. And when you get to the dew point, that air condenses. You have little particles of water. When you have particles of water, that's the basis for making clouds. And you have precipitation that then falls. So with the absence of dry air, you have wet air. And with rain, you have precipitation and clouds and all things that mean bad weather in the area. So that's why low pressure systems are so important and why they form bad weather. So I'm going to talk about one type of low pressure system that we see very often, mid-latitude lows. This is different from, let's say, a hurricane or something of that matter. This is something that maybe we could see that for a strong winter storm or springtime severe weather storm. And this is a mature low pressure system. We can easily get to know this because of the way that the clouds are. It looks like a comma, a distinct comma shape, and that's because of the fronts that are protruding them. I'll talk about fronts in a very different video. It's a completely different topic, but clouds sort of go down because a cold front is bringing all that air up and it's making clouds. You also have a warm front at top and an occluded front, which is a different type of front. With that as well, you have counterclockwise winds, which are different from high pressure. So you can kind of see where the winds are coming from and why we have warm and cold fronts, because within the warm front, we have air coming from the south, typically warmer. And then when you have the cold front, you have air coming from the north, which is typically colder. So that's something to think about and really the basis for a lot of the weather in our neighborhood. But it's not just mid-latitude lows, it's everything in our area. Look at this. Rain, snow, wind, clouds, those are the most common things in mid-latitude lows. But you also, like I mentioned, you have hurricanes, tropical lows, hurricanes, winds, storm surge. They all come from low pressure in different ways that the atmosphere interacts with low pressure systems. Like I mentioned too, severe weather, thunder, lightning, strong tornadoes, hail, those are all subsets and things that come from low pressure systems. So there's just a tremendous amount of weather that comes from low pressure. So these systems have such a huge impact on climate, weather, and human life. And listen, it gives people like me jobs too. For Weather 101, I'm Gavin Sandell.